You're listening to the All-American Actors Podcast, episode 38. In today's episode, get ready to learn 3 easy ways to practice your American accent when you're busy. That's coming up next. Ready to go behind the scenes and learn what it really takes to build a sustainable career as a working actor in the U.S. film and TV industry? Join me, Catherine Beck, your All-American Accent Coach, as I give you the insight and inspiration to take action on your career. Learn my best tips and tricks to performing with an American accent, and hear from working actors and other industry professionals to give you a comprehensive overview of this biz we call showbiz. This is the All-American Actors Podcast. Before I share with you 3 easy ways to practice your American accent when you're busy, because I know we are all busy, I want to give a big shout out to Miss Carrie H., who says, so much value. Catherine does an amazing job of keeping actors abreast of what's happening in the industry. Loved it. Thanks, Carrie, for that 5-star review. And yes, that is my aim, to give actors the confidence, give them the edge, the drive to know what's happening, and do something about it, whatever that means to you. To go, okay, I got the facts, I'm aware of what's going on in the industry, what my goal is, and what I'm gonna do about it, so you can be that working actor that you dream to be, having that sustainable career, doing what you love to do. And that is why I am here for you. That is what this podcast is all about. So thank you, Carrie, for this review. And if you've been listening to this podcast and loving what you hear, do me a favor, click the subscribe button if you haven't already done so. Tap those 5 stars and leave a review to let me know what you think of this podcast. Apple loves those reviews. It helps with our ranking in the podcast, gets us recognized by actors all over the world. So if you're loving this podcast and you're loving this episode, go ahead and leave us a review. Okay, now, first things first, I need to just mention that in last week's episode, I had said that today, in this episode, I was going to talk about your actor personal brand, which I am still going to talk about, but I'm going to talk about next week, because I felt inspired to bring a different episode to you this week, and let me explain why. So, I currently live in Sydney, Australia, and right now, well, if you've heard the news and you're not in Sydney, we are in a lockdown. And this lockdown was rather unexpected. Sydney was doing great for months and months and months. It was as if things were back to how they used to be before the pandemic. And I have to say, I was a busy bumblebee. I was doing that beautiful juggle between work life and home life, family life, and I was filled to the brim. I was busy and I loved it. I really do love having things to look forward to in the day. You know, the joy that I can be there for my family and run my own business is very rewarding to me. And sometimes there are days where I do have a lot of things on my plate. And when that happens, that skill of multitasking becomes even more important for me. So there were days where I'd be walking the dog or driving my daughter to gymnastics, and at the same time, I'd be listening and approving my next podcast episode before it went to air. Or I might be waiting at the school pickup, waiting outside school for 10 minutes in the car with time to spare, so I would be utilizing that time by replying to my emails. So when this lockdown happened, it was a sudden, unexpected shift in time. I could feel time suddenly slow down, and I could reflect on the busyness that I was getting wrapped up in. And what I noticed for me is that, I often keep myself busy, almost like a distraction. And I realized that when I slow down, I have more time to reflect on the bigger picture of what I truly want and truly desire, instead of getting wrapped up in those smaller things that were keeping me busy. And I bring this up because as actors, or just as people in general, we get wrapped up in being busy. That juggle between our day job and our auditions and our acting class and life. But sometimes if we can just pause and reflect on where we are and where we want to be, to make sure that we aren't losing sight of that bigger picture that we envision for ourselves, that can be a powerful thing and a great check-in for all of us. So get out there, take a walk, and start reflecting on this. And hey, if you do, drop me a DM on Instagram and let me know what came up for you. I would love to know. But, I think this is a great time for all of us, whether you're in lockdown or not, to take those moments, those quiet moments, to sit and reflect and think about where you want to be. And that brings me into today's topic, which is the 3 easy ways to practice your American accent when you are busy. Because I get it. Generally, we are busy, and sometimes we need to multitask. And if you're here listening to this podcast, you probably already know how important it is to practice, right? I like to say you need to practice because practice gives us the ability to excel in a skill, gives us the ability and confidence we desire. So that's why today I want to share with you 3 easy ways to find the time to practice your American accent so you can never say to me again, I don't have time to practice. Because yes, you do. You do have the time. It's just that, perhaps you're making the choice to not find the time, to not prioritize your practice. And the question there to ask yourself is why? Why are you keeping yourself in the same current state? What comfort or security does that give you? And what would happen if you found just a few minutes a day to practice? What would that give you? I want you to ask yourself these questions, and I want you to write down your responses and sit with this for a moment. Because our goals, our desires, our needs, they need to feel real for us, to feel like they're doable, actionable, and you have it within you to do this. So now it's just a question of whether or not you're ready to take action. And if you are ready, then let's dive in. All right, tip number 1 is super quick. All you need to give me is 3 to 5 minutes of your day to warm up your articulators for the American accent. And you cannot tell me that you don't have 3 to 5 minutes in your day because I know you do. And I'm going to make it even easier for you. Multitask. Do these exercises when you are making your morning coffee or tea or taking a shower or getting dressed for the day. Make this a part of your daily morning ritual so it becomes a habit. And this way, you'll do it yourself. And if you do it in the morning, well, guess what? It's already done. Check that off your list. Your practice for the day is done, and that's all the time you need. So if you're that busy that you don't have time to do a full warm-up, I think you can find at least 3 to 5 minutes in your day. All right, number 2, this is such a great way to practice your American accent and an easy way to fit it in your day. You are going to speak in your natural accent, but with the placement of the American accent. Now, this is a subtle way to practice, and what's going to happen is it's going to change the way you sound only slightly because your placement's going to be different. So obviously the sounds, they'll be slightly different when you voice them in your natural accent. It'll still sound like you, but a slightly different version of you. And what this does is it gives yourself the ability to get used to the American placement, both in your body and in your brain, and build this new speech habit so it starts to feel more natural. And this is really going to pay off when you perform, so that you don't have to think about the accent so much, when you're in performance, or worry about dropping out of the accent. So I highly recommend you giving this a try today. Go out and see what you notice in practicing this way. And number 3, the most fun way to practice. And I always say it's a very important part of your practice, which is your research and observation for the American accent. And one of the best ways to do this is by watching US TV shows and films. Listen, watch, observe, repeat. Notice how they sound their sounds, how they voice their sounds. Listen to their rhythm, their intonation, the words that they stress. You will learn so much in doing this, and it is such an important thing to do. And really, as an actor, this is something that you should be doing, is watching US TV films and TV shows to know what productions are being made, what's happening in the industry. So it's a really great way to practice. Mimic even what you hear on the screen to get a better understanding of their vocal performance too. So there you have it. Quick and easy, 3 super easy ways to practice your American accent so you have no excuse to practice when you are busy. And remember, if you haven't yet grabbed my free American accent guide, my step-by-step process to getting you to sound all American, it is yours. It is free. Just head over to katherinebeck.com/accent. And if you love this episode, go ahead, let me know. Take a screenshot of the show, share it with me on your Instagram story, and tag me in it at Katherine_Beck_. You can find me there. And if you've got any questions or topics you want to hear on the podcast, just let me know. Send me a DM, and I would love to hear from you. And coming up next week on the show, next week I am going to be talking about your personal brand as an actor, why that's so important, and why you should start thinking about the business side of acting. Now make sure to share the show with all your actor friends, let them know what's coming up next week, and invite them to tune in with you and learn how to become an all-American actor so you can be the working actor you dream to be. Until then, go practice your American accent. And I'll see you back here next time.